everyone, what's up? My name is Joss and welcome back to my channel, Squibbles Reads. So a few weeks ago, Book Outlet did a book sale for October where I think we got 15% off books, and then if you tweeted something or posted something on Facebook, you also got an additional $5 off. So knowing me, I definitely cannot resist any of these things, and I also just unhauled a huge thing of books, so if you want to check that out, I will definitely link it in the cards up there. So now we are here in this situation with a massive box of books. I'm going to take all the books out of this box for you guys, and I'll let you know what each one is about. I'm gonna put this down now because my arm is going to fall off. So yeah, let's jump on in here. Okay, so the first book that I have for you guys is a book that I actually started back in March or April when I wasn't on BookTube at that time and I just wasn't reading a lot, so I didn't end up finishing it, but I was really enjoying it. This book is Kay's Lucky Coin Variety by Anne Y.K. Choi, and this is a book about a Korean-Canadian girl named Mary. She lives in Toronto in Canada, and this takes place in the 1980s. When the book opens, we are in her family's corner store, so it's kind of like a convenience store. They sell like some groceries and some essentials. It is kind of in the Korean community in Toronto. Unfortunately, there is a terrible act of violence, and then after that, things start to unravel. There is some family struggle after that, both financially and emotionally. Some different relationships come to light in Mary's life and in the family's life. Again, I did start this book around March or April. I just never got around to finishing it, but I was really liking it a lot. The next book I have is just a fun one. It's actually a coloring book. It's the Disney Villains 100 Images to Inspire coloring book. I have a million Disney coloring books and I don't color nearly as often as I should. It's really relaxing for me though, so I just like to pop one of these open and put on an audiobook whenever I have the time. The next book in the box is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was actually one of my favorite books of 2016 and probably one of my favorite contemporary books of all time. Taylor Jenkins Reid is an amazing writer. So the concept of this book is not a super original one, I have to say. So it's about a woman named Emma, and Emma, when she was in her 20s, she married her high school sweetheart Jesse. On their first anniversary, Jesse is on a flight over the Pacific Ocean and his plane unfortunately gets lost, and she doesn't see Jesse for a long time, and she is really devastated about the loss or just like the not knowing where the hell he is. So then we fast forward several years and she's now in her 30s and she runs into an old friend and his name is Sam, and she and Sam start to kindle a relationship. They get engaged, she's super happy, and of course what does happen, but they find Jesse, and now Emma is stuck in this love triangle between Sam and Jesse, trying to decide if she wants to go back to Jesse to see if they can kind of start up what they had, or if she wants to continue this engagement with Sam. So again, not a terribly original concept, but I think the execution of it was amazing. There were a lot of emotions that were in this book, obviously, with all the things that are happening and all the different relationships and how they change. And I think all of those emotions were written from a really genuine, authentic place. I don't think anything felt rushed, nothing felt forced. It all just really felt very natural. And I think that is where this book really shines. I'm not doing it any justice at all, but if you want a good contemporary, I would definitely recommend this one. And up next we have Kushels Start by Jacqueline Carey. This is the first book in a series, and I think there are 2 more. I have heard this book described as a fantasy book with really everything that you could possibly need. So there's political intrigue, there is a looming war, there are rulers from lands that disagree with one another, so all those staples of a great fantasy book. However, what really sets this apart from other fantasy books is that it's set in a society that is extremely sex positive. So for example, there are relationships in this book that are polyamorous, but there is discussion around that topic. There are also women in this book that have casual sex, and it doesn't seem like there is a double standard, or if there is again some discussion about that. There are also non-heteronormative relationships, and just the attitude in general in the society is very open-minded, which I think is amazing, and it is really what sold me on picking up the first one in the series. If I do like it, again, there are a couple more. The next book I was so stoked to see when I pulled out of the box. I screamed, and then I took a picture, and then immediately went on Twitter, and I'll show you why. This is The Cutting Season, and it is a signed first edition, which is amazing because I totally wasn't expecting that. I just bought it because I wanted to read The Cutting Season, not because I wanted a signed first edition, but now I have a signed first edition, so I'm really happy about it. And I'm just trying to find the signature page, and here it is, and my lighting is all jacked up. But anyways, this is written by Attica Locke, who is an African-American woman. She does also some screenwriting for like Warner Brothers and a whole bunch of different like well-known TV and movie companies. This book is set in the south of the states. There is a woman and her name is Karen, and she is walking along on this historical plantation in Louisiana called Belle V. And while she is walking along, she unfortunately stumbles across the dead body of a girl, and this starts to reveal the secrets of Bellevue. And when we go back in history, it includes a lot about politics, about legal issues, about race, family, love, all of those things that I really, really enjoy reading about and unpacking in a book. There's also some mystery in this book. It's a thriller. You guys know I love that, so I am all around just really, really happy about this one. And then we have What Lies Between Us by Naomi Monowira. I am just gonna let you guys know that I will not get to this book until December. Some of you guys know why, some of you don't. Don't worry, I'll tell you later. But this book is originally set in Sri Lanka, and we have a girl and her mom. Something really terrible happens, and they go and try to start anew, and they try and immigrate to the States, specifically to San Francisco. And then there she tries to resume her normal teenage life, but she is having a lot of trouble adjusting, and we do see some of the after effects of the trauma that she experienced in Sri Lanka. I've heard that this does a really good job at illustrating the effects of trauma, the effects of trying to move from one culture to another and trying to see where you fit in both cultures. It has all the things that I like. This cover is also beautiful. But yeah, again, not getting to this one until December. Next book that I have, I am not a fan of this cover. It kind of freaks me out a little bit. But this is Masego Wood by Robert Holdstock. This is about a man whose name is George Huxley, and he has been obsessed with the mystery of this patch of primeval forest, which is the last patch of primeval forest in Britain. So George unfortunately dies, and his sons are carrying on his work with trying to uncover this mystery. But during their work, they find that there are so many monsters, there are a lot of myths, there are a lot of like really creepy things that are going on in this forest, and they find that it's really affecting them emotionally and mentally, and really with everything in their life. They start becoming paranoid and really fearful. It sounds like a really good creepy ass book about forest and woods and monsters, so I'm really into that. It seems like I have a lot of like fantasy going on here with Kushels Start and this one. That's a lot of fantasy to me, 2 books, but I'm gonna stop talking. This one is Masego Wood. The next book that I have has these beautiful deckled edges here, and it has really nice French flaps. I do love me a good French flap. This is Ripper by Isabel Allende. So we have a mom and a daughter. The mom's name is Indiana, and the daughter's name is Amanda. Indiana is a holistic holer. She as a whole is kind of just a very light and airy, kind of go with the flow type of person. She's been divorced from Amanda's dad for a long time, but Amanda, on the other hand, really enjoys looking at kind of like the dark and twisty side of human beings. So Amanda's dad was the SFPD chief of homicide. So she has been really kind of involved and intrigued by his work. She also plays this online game called Ripper that she plays with her grandfather and also with people from around the world that is also kind of related to like homicide and murder and missing people and all of that stuff. So one day, unfortunately, Amanda's mom, Indiana, does go missing. There is also a serial killer on the loose with a string of murders where they live. Amanda is really desperately trying to find her mom. She might also unearth kind of some of the secrets of who this serial killer is. It sounds great. It sounds like all the things that I really love. I think it might also be set in San Francisco because we have the Golden Gate Bridge here. Next, we have The Dark Forest, which was originally by Cixin Liu and is translated by Joel Martinson. So if you guys think this cover looks familiar, it's probably because you've seen the cover for The Three Body Problem, which is the first book in the series, and The Dark Forest is the second book. The Three Body Problem was actually translated by Ken Liu, so I think it's really interesting that they've switched to a new translator. If you guys have read these and you think there's kind of like a difference in the translation or how the voice sounds in the books, definitely let me know down below what you think of the first one as compared to this one. But anyways, I won't tell you anything about the blurb of this one, but I'll tell you a little bit about The Three Body Problem because I really like it. It's been one of my favorite books of the year. So basically, it is a sci-fi novel that starts off in China during the Cultural Revolution. And during the Cultural Revolution, there are some researchers, some scientists, and some physicists that are doing some research and some science things that go against the ideologies of the current government, which are very strict. There is a lot of censorship that's going on, and these people are being punished in public for the research that they are doing. Then we flash forward a bunch of years later, and then we are looking at these researchers' children who have been really upset about what happened to their parents and are trying to continue their research or do something that is more forward moving with the research that they have done. And then further along in the plot, there is some time bending, there are some aliens, there are different worlds. It is a little bit more physics and science heavy, but it's nothing that I didn't understand. I sucked at physics when I was in high school. I will tell you that straight up. Physics made me cry a lot, and I could handle the physics in this book. Then we have The Book of Phoenix by Nnedi Okorafor. This is about a girl whose name is Phoenix. She's in a relationship with a boy named Saeed, and they live in Tower 7 in New York. And Tower 7 is home to all of these genetic experiments, and both of them are the result from a genetic experiment. They are called accelerated humans. They are basically infants, but they are put into like accelerated bodies. So their bodies and their bodily capabilities are those of adults. So one evening, Saeed sees something really terrible that leads him to die by suicide. Unfortunately, Phoenix is super distraught and torn up about this, and she tries to see what the hell is going on, and Tower 7 is being really shady about it, won't answer any of her questions. She becomes really frustrated. She realizes that her home is basically like a prison, and she is the product of these experiments, and she desperately wants to escape. Then the blurb says that she travels from the States to somewhere in Africa. It doesn't say exactly what country or city, and then she will travel back to the States, and then like humanity is basically in her hands. So all of those books I had either heard of before, or someone recommended to me, or I'd started reading already. This is the first one that I had no idea what it was about. I saw it, it looked intriguing, so I picked it up. This is called The Fall of Saints by Wanjiku Wanguchi, and this follows a woman and a man who are in a relationship, Muguri and Zach, and they have adopted a beautiful young son. They live in New York. However, one night Muguri is looking through her drawers and she comes across this note, and the note apparently unveils something secret or something in the past about her husband, and it really makes her question her relationship and everything that is going on. The blurb says that there may have been like a suspicious man that was following Muguri and Zach when they were on their first date. There might have been something sketchy with the adoption agency where they adopted their son. There might have been like child trafficking. I don't really know, but all of those words were involved in the synopsis on the back of this book. I'm super intrigued by this, and I really can't wait to pick it up. It actually has really terrible ratings on Goodreads, but it doesn't have all that many ratings, so I will wait. I will withhold judgment until I actually start reading this one myself. And the next book that I have here is The Paper Menagerie and Other Stories by Ken Liu, who was actually the translator of The Three Body Problem, which was the first book in that series that I told you guys about. This was a book that was originally recommended to me by my only friend that reads in real life. I know, right? It's apparently quite an eclectic collection of short stories. There is one that's set in Japan and talks about like really unethical experiments on humans in a laboratory. There's one that people were building the Trans-Pacific Tunnel. There's some with fantasy creatures. There is some cultural discussion, all things that I really like, and I think that those differences between the stories will really keep this one moving. So this next book is actually the book that I am probably the most excited about in this pile. I read the synopsis briefly before I started filming, and I was like, my whole body was like, you need to read that book immediately. So this is called The Story Hour by Thriti Amagrar. It's also just like the most beautiful book ever. Like, look at this orange and the pink. It's gorgeous. But anyways, this is about a psychologist whose name is Maggie, and Maggie likes to keep some emotional distance between herself and her clients. However, she meets a young Indian woman whose name is Lakshmi, and something about her story makes Maggie so attached to her and just has this visceral attachment to her. Lakshmi has left her family in India, and now she's in a relationship with a man who she doesn't love. The man is incredibly domineering and controlling, and he doesn't allow her to do a ton of stuff outside of the family and outside of the store that they own. So Maggie is extremely affected by Lakshmi's story. There's something really special about their connection. Maggie actually starts to provide treatment for her in her own house. Something shifts in the therapeutic relationship, and the two of them start to become friends, which may or may not be ethical in this situation. I will definitely have to read it and see what's going on. There are different expectations with the psychologist and with the client. There are a ton of ethical and legal issues, which I cannot wait to read about here. Apparently, Maggie also starts to divulge things about herself. Their secrets become entangled. I cannot wait to read this book. It has everything that I like. So I will probably be picking this one up really, really soon. This next book I think I know the least about, but it's absolutely gorgeous. This is called The Year She Left Us by Catherine Ma. I think it follows 4 different Chinese or Chinese American women. There is an 18-year-old girl whose name is Ari who goes back to visit her home before she was adopted back in China, and that sends her into kind of an emotional spiral, and then her adoptive mom is also having some emotional issues as well. I think then we go past another generation and then we talk about the grandma, and she went through the Cultural Revolution like I talked about earlier. This sounds like an amazing multi-generational novel about women of color. Y'all know those are definitely my buzzwords, and it's also just a really, really gorgeous book. And then we have When the Moon Was Ours by Anna Marie McLemore. This is also just a gorgeous, gorgeous book. Anna Marie McLemore has primarily written YA. She also wrote The Weight of Feathers and Wild Beauty, another beautiful book. But this one was her sophomore release. I really enjoyed The Weight of Feathers. This is magical realism with Latinx characters, and I would full out recommend some Anna Marie McLemore. I think she's amazing. And the last book that I have here is You Too Can Have a Body Like Mine by Alexandra Kleeman. This is a novel that is a surrealist book, and it talks about basically people's relationships with food. There is some commentary about how things like TV and what we see on TV, like those documentaries about how food is produced, and how those can affect our thoughts about food and our relationship with food, which I think is really essential and also really complicated because our bodies can't thrive without food. So no matter what kind of relationship we have with food, we need it to live. Like, it is a basic human need. It talks about things like agriculture, about the grocery industry, even things about like cosmetics and makeup and fashion and other things like pornography. It covers a lot of those things while tackling it from a surrealist perspective. I think that sounds so intriguing and like absolutely nothing that I've ever heard of before. So, all right, so we are through my massive box of books. I really need to stop buying books. I'm just kidding. I just went to a book sale and bought 40 more, which is fantastico. So that haul should be coming up real soon too. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have read any of these books, please let me know down below in the comments. I will see you in my next video. Bye.